So here I am live on my second Twitch stream ever. So I'm painting this live on the internet in front of a camera and a microphone and whatnot. And I thought I would take a new and a kind of a different approach for myself to approach the same subject again. Last time when I approached this subject, I had mixed the colors a lot on the palette, and I guess I had been looking at it more like an oil painter than a watercolor painter, and I was trying to think about adding the colors directly to the paper. And when I did that, it wasn't as opaque as I thought it would be, and that was because I had been slightly misled by the idea that the colors were all going to be as opaque as the koi watercolors. So when I bought the 2 tubes of Winsor Newton Professional, French Ultramarine, and Burnt Sienna, I thought when I mixed those together I was going to get me a flat matte black, which wasn't at all even close to the case. So I also switched the paper I was on because I had gotten myself some hot press paper in hopes to have something that wasn't very textured, and but the paper I was using was not quite as I don't know if you want to say expensive or quality as this paper that I'm trying here. This paper I'm trying here is Arches, and it's cold press. And I thought, okay, I'm going to lay down, essentially a sepia grisaille, and then put the ultramarine blue over the top to then get the shadows, instead of trying to mix some sort of black in the palette and then laying that all over the place, trying to make places really, really dark. Here the blue is starting to go onto the face, and you can see that it's darkening up, but it's not going to make an opaque black. Even though black is kind of a misnomer a bit because it is a mixture of just burnt sienna and blue, but so I'm trying to work with the watercolor rather than with the idea of how the koi watercolor would work, which was just more of a gouache style. I also had in mind what I wanted to do was to leave marks in the portrait that showed the paint. So there'd be watercolor edges and there'd be layers that you could see one on top of the other, and I wouldn't try to smooth everything out so that the strokes were invisible. I wanted to kind of be able to see, identify it as a watercolor immediately by just slightly looking at it. You'd be able to see that, and I felt that that was definitely part of what I was being able to achieve here for sure. Now this stream was 2 separate streams, and they had run about 7 hours together, and edited down right now it's about like 10-12 minutes, so it's moving along really, really quickly. When I got to the end of this stream, I had started to consider it as maybe a work in progress that I might revisit, and I'm not going to completely say I'm not going to do that, but I wasn't sure that I really wanted to work the background and spend a lot of time on it, because I do think I may start this same subject matter one more time. I feel like I'm really learning a lot with each iteration, and I just, I think I wanted to just kind of begin again. Plus I'm getting used to streaming. Streaming's kind of new for me, and it's something that just kind of getting the hang of a bit. I have also since learned a lot about stretching watercolor paper, which I didn't know much about before. The first painting I made, I didn't stretch it at all, but I didn't find that it really wrinkled or anything, so it wasn't too bad. This second time I tried to do what I thought was stretching the paper, but in the end I just kind of made it wrinkle when it probably wouldn't have if I hadn't tried to stretch it. And then most recently I did go get myself some nice brown paper, butcher's tape, and I think that I'm going to be stretching it out in a way that I learned about on YouTube, where you just sort of wet the paper until it gives a bit, and then you just lay it out as flat as you can, and then the butcher's tape basically is a paper that has an adhesive on one side that once it's wet becomes sticky, and then it holds it in place. Some people will try to use a sponge in the end to get it back off the painting, and some people will just cut the painting right where the butcher's tape is. And so it, there's a little bit to consider when you go to put that down, how you're going to remove it or how you're going to cut it or whatnot. But yeah, so I had wondered how others had been getting their paper to stay. Of course, you can buy yourself a really nice block that has the rubberized edges all the way around so that each piece of paper stays stretched and it doesn't ruin the other pieces of paper, and you can definitely take it like on the road and not worry about having to have something to stretch the paper on or wet it or tape it or anything like that. But here in Canada, the Arch blocks are literally twice the price as they are in the US. So, yeah, I'm definitely planning on my next trip down to the US to pick up some paper then, so I can save a few dollars even with the exchange rate. So, yeah, it might be nice to have a block. But for now, I'm happy to be stretching it, and it's all in, all part of the huge learning process of trying to get some watercolors down. So I'm going to play a little bit of music here, and then I'm going to come back near the end and sum up my experience with this particular work. So in the end, this work had quite a few things going for it. The likeness was pretty good. I was able to use watercolors, the Winsor Newton completely on the face, burnt sienna and the French ultramarine, and trying to get used to the idea of layering and the transparency of the watercolor. Also for the hair, I did bring in the kois, and you can see that's why I'm getting these really serious darks, because the kois are much more opaque. Overall, I was pretty happy with the results, and I enjoyed doing it, and I'm really looking forward to exploring putting more colors into the flesh in watercolor in future works. And yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, I would so appreciate it if you just hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, that way you won't miss a video when I post one, and thanks so much for watching. So I had used the koi watercolors because they were a travel set and it was easy to carry to the iris fields, and make little sketches and watercolors on the spot. And little did I know, but I had been using a brand of watercolors that basically perform more like gouache, or so what I had read subsequent to having done this experiment live on stream. I had gone and purchased